talking with the legendary Steve Perry. So good to talk with you again.
I don't know about legendary, Jim. Hold on.
Well, I heard I heard an interview with you. I can't remember some radio station that I heard on your website where they said, "I'm talking with the notorious Steve Perry," and I thought, I don't think that's the right word. Notorious is being known for a bad deed or a quality.
Yeah, like stealing cattle or something.
Yes. He's notorious. No, he's not notorious. I don't think.
Okay, we'll settle for legendary over notorious.
Exactly. And we are still here. Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
After our last conversation, I wanted to just keep talking, and we never have a long enough time together, but I appreciate your jumping on the phone and talking with us.
No, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
You know, it's I've been spending a lot of time on your website and looking at some of the videos, the video for We're Still Here, and I heard you talking a little bit about the inspiration for that. That had to do with being on Hollywood Boulevard, seeing some of the up and coming generation and reminiscent of kind of your early days. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I was writing some sketching ideas with a guy named Brian West, and so we took a break and went to have some dinner. This was quite some time ago. And on the way back, I just noticed it was a Friday night, and I never made it up to the Hollywood area very much because I was down in Southern California. And all of a sudden, I'm standing on the corner of Hollywood and Vine, and everybody is doing the same thing generationally. We all do. You know, here's these guys chasing these girls. These girls couldn't be more than 15, 16, and their miniskirts could not get any shorter, by the way. And so, you know, and it just was like it was still going on, and the music is blaring in their cars, and they're driving around. It was just a flashback to exactly the same thing I did when I was their age. And through them, I felt this sense of timeless kinship to the spirit of the idea that we're still here doing the same thing. And so through them, I could see this feeling that I was still doing it through them, that we're still here, awesome. Together doing the same thing.
And do you think that I don't know if it would be a cliche idea of, you know, getting on the Greyhound bus and going to Hollywood to find fame and fortune, and that image of somebody getting off the bus with their guitar and, you know, landing in Hollywood. Do you think that's a fable, or do you think that it's real?
I think it's going on right now everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't stopped. I mean, the idea of people being inspired by music and then getting an acoustic guitar and deciding to put a backpack on and just hike across the country, though there are some dangers to such things. These days are a little bit different. But I think that the passion that drives such an idea is still there. And there's all sorts of new kids coming up with all sorts of great new writing directions. Melodically, which I know you can relate to, Jim, when I write with people, I always ask them, because I know melodically what I will probably turn to. But when I write with people who are younger than I ask them, well, what do you hear? What melody comes to mind for you? I'm curious, because I would love to interpret someone else's melody and try to make it my own or make a hybrid of it. But the point for doing that is that the beginnings of their inspiration for what they melodically hear are so different than what I would hear because of my age, because of what inspired me as a kid is different than theirs. So I think that freshness of melody sense that they pull from is so important. And I think the idea of playing acoustic guitar and being a troubadour for melody and lyric is a viable one.
I think, though, that when you're a songwriter, singer-songwriter, you tend to write for your capabilities. Like, I have like a five note range in my voice, so I tend to keep it very small. But when you write, you know that you can pull off this very rangy quality. And I know that when I write a melody, I tend to write an arc that is, very broad. And I think because I'm a pianist, I don't think that much about can the singer sing this. And then a lot of times they get in the studio and they're like, this is the rangiest thing I've ever, and like I've always wanted to soar. So when you write and your capability as a singer, which is insane, then do you tend to write more broadly as a range?
I think you're absolutely right. I don't think anyone has ever asked me that question until you just did. That is an absolute fact, that you do have a tendency to write within the ability or confines of your range at that moment. Sometimes I write ideas because that's what I got that day, and they're not very rangy at all. And then depends on how strong the voice is. I might take liberties and write something a little bit more adventurous melodically that's more challenging. But the voice is as you just said, the voice is a finicky instrument. And it is different when it's a piano, all due respect, fingers on keys, beautiful instrument, a guitar, fretboard, bass, drums, sticks. That's nice, and it takes incredible talent to play that. But when you're just a singer and the instrument is you, it isn't your vocal box, it's you. Did you sleep enough? Did you drink enough water? Did you sing too much yesterday, but you're a little bit deficit today? Is your nose dripping because you're in a different city with allergies? I mean, everything changes a voice in a second. And that can dictate the type of music you're writing that day or singing that day. And it can be, I would say, maddening at some points because it's unpredictable. The voice is unpredictable. I just saw a documentary that's coming out soon about Pavarotti. I was lucky to go to a screening. It's going to be coming out soon. And he said the same thing. I've always felt this way, and he kind of talks about his voice like it's a she for him. She's very difficult, he says. She can be nice. Some days she's nice. Some days she's not so nice,
It's true, yeah.
I mean, to hear Pavarotti talk about it in third person, like it's a part of him that's a character that he loves but has to deal with the inconsistencies with.
Yeah, elevation, what you ate, yes. All of these things. If it's raining, if it's humid, absolutely.
Do you realize that one of my favorite foods is spicy foods? Can't have them.
Yeah.
If you're singing, you can't have spicy food because if it burns your tongue, it's burning all the way down. And it's crazy how you have to really change your whole regimen.
You were talking about Pavarotti and talking about he speaks of the voice in the third person. And the last time we were talking, and I've been thinking so much about this because I experienced a very similar thing. I so related just personally to your life arc so far, and the idea that you really did think of Steve Perry in Journey as a character, in the third person. And I experienced that the same way. It's so relatable that you sort of lost yourself in the character that you were portraying.
Well, it's interesting because to this day, when I was making the Traces record, which was like an experience to revisit all the demons and challenges and neurosis that come with making and recording and writing and mixing and arranging, and the whole thing came with all these neurosis. I always, still to this day, talk about it in third person. It's easier for me to produce the music if I say, when he says we're still here, when he says we're still here, I want to get a little bit more of the of we're. Can we go and chase that note just a little bit? I talk third person because to me, I'm observing it from this side. When I'm on the other side, I'm doing it. It's a different experience.
Yeah,
and it's a personal one.
it's not like it's not you. It's a part of you, but it's the front facing part to the audience.
Yeah.
And
That's right. That's right.
It's so hard. I noticed that lately we've been doing this podcast, and it's very popular. We just basically talk like we're talking now, and
Right.
I find that I'm much freer lately. As soon as I let my hair turn gray, this happened to me. as soon as I became, like, you know what? I'm just gonna let my hair be. Like, I don't have to be that guy necessarily. And
Right.
that's we end up talking about stuff, and I'm so much more myself. And I know that people are like, I can't believe he complains so much, and I can't believe he's so neurotic, and I can't, because that's not the front facing part of your music.
Well, it's also people don't talk about this either. But when you mix music, when you're done doing it, you know this more than anybody, but maybe the audience doesn't really know this. But when you're mixing music, you're bringing up all the channels, all the tracks of everything you decided belongs in this song. All those separate tracks go through a stereo bus, and you get a left and right. You have to make a decision when it comes to drums, for instance, real drums. Are you going to mix the drums when you pan the drums left or right? Are you going to mix from drummer's perspective or audience perspective? So if it right? So people don't realize that. If you're watching a drummer and he's a right-handed drummer, audience perspective is that the hi-hat's going to be on the right side, okay, of your mix, because that's the drummer looking at the audience playing towards you. If you're doing drummer's perspective, it's going to be turned around. It's different. So it's kind of crazy. Those kind of things matter.
They do.
Level,
They do. So tell me a little bit about. I know we talked about Traces, and I love the music video. Of We're Still Here. The drive. How did you do that? The drive. You guys, if you haven't seen this, go to Steve Perry's website and see this video. It is so great.
Well, let me tell you. There's also a behind the music or behind the scenes. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, of you singing in studio.
Where there's a lot of extra footage and black and white footage and me sort of like talking about what happened. Well, when I got there, I knew I would be driving the car. We weren't going to do what most people do, is trailer the car, and then they follow you with the camera on the hood, or they follow you with a camera while you're being driven by a trailer, and you act like you're driving. No. They actually mounted the camera on the hood of this SS Chevelle, and I had to drive with this massive camera right in front of my perspective and listen to the music and sing along and drive. So I drove all around Hollywood while we were filming, stopping at lights, make sure I don't run over anybody, and it was exciting to do it. It really was. Some people recognized me. We smiled and we laughed and we waved, and as the camera's rolling, and it was a bit challenging. But if you see me looking to the right or left, I'm looking around the camera. I'm trying to see to make sure I'm not running over anybody.
Right, exactly. We're talking with the legendary Steve Perry about his Notorious. Yes, that's right. Yes. Infamous. Same problem with Infamous.
Yeah.
But what is your reaction when people say, he's making a comeback? What does that mean? Isn't that kind of an odd word?
I'd walked away figuring I had lived the dream of dreams. There was not much more I could have ever participated in. It really was living a dream, musically, creatively, with a great band, touring the world, performing with people. What more was there to do? And when I sort of had became a bit of a wrung out sponge, meaning I was pretty dry and not feeling any source of emotion in what I was doing, where I just had to stop because I was borrowing from I don't know what, and so I stopped, and it was not what you would say a happy decision on my part for some people, and I know it was not for the fans, but for me, it had to be done. So I just stopped and walked away from it. And the further I walked away from it, Jim, the more I realized that what could I do any better than I already participated in? And I just think I should just stay away. Years went by, and I mean, I didn't do much of anything except a solo project in the middle, and then I met a girl named Kelly Nash, and we became such close people with each other. It was just so different. And there was promises made with her that I never made before, and because she was ill when I first met her. And when she passed away from the cancer, making and recording music became a fulfillment of that promise, which was not to go back into isolation for she felt it would make it off or not. And I had never been told such a thing or asked, please don't go into isolation, for I just got this feeling it would make this all for naught if something was to happen to me. And what kind of truth is more powerful than that, you know? And so I decided to build my studio, which I've always wanted to do. And originally I started dabbling with a laptop and Pro Tool rig and only one hard drive, Jim. And I decided to give myself the ability to suck.
Yeah, you have
Meaning, if I don't like when it comes up, I'm just going to delete it and no one will know ever.
That's right.
It existed because it was on one hard drive. And I wasn't signed to a record label. I was free. So this was really an opportunity to open up the gates of creativity and just see what shows up. As a result of that, the songs started coming and traces started to show up. Then I built the studio and made the record, not for a comeback. No.
Right.
I don't need a comeback.
Right.
I don't know what.
That's what I mean.
A comeback means how can anybody come back?
Come back. Exactly.
Come back to what?
I know.
To
I
what
hate
you
that.
were?
I hate it.
You know, let me tell you, this is important. Jim, is anything what it once was?
Right.
No.
Exactly.
Nothing is what it once was. So where's the word comeback?
Right.
Nobody's what they were.
Reclaiming.
Nobody's what they.
Right. Reclaiming the way you
like
look, the way your spirit, your energy, anything about it.
My passion, my honest passion for what I used to love was gone. Now the passion came back, and all I wanted to be is true to that. Wherever that takes me today is where that takes me. That's not a comeback.
Right, I know.
That's just being honest. You know?
That's why I wanted to ask you about that, because, especially in media, or you're doing like an interview and it's like a sound bite, Steve Perry's making a comeback. It's like, oh, God.
No.
Yeah, it's
come back to, my question is come back to what?
Come back to what, exactly? Like,
come back to what?
Because
I'm not what I was.
Right. I'm
nothing like I was.
That's what happened to me when I stopped coloring my hair. I'm like, what are you trying to do? Like, you're not going to be, you're never going to be that anymore. Anyway, so what's the reaction been to the new music from your fans?
Oh, it's been great. It's been really great. I mean, it's been an interesting experience to release a record in this age that we live in, meaning it's such a different landscape. Once again, what's the word comeback? Comeback would mean we have Tower Records, Warehouse Records, and Licorice Pizza.
Right.
No, not here either. Okay.
Right. No lines
so
around the corner.
Don't even talk about comeback with me. So now we're streaming. Now we got everything, all this stuff. And so it's been such an interesting experience to release music into the new landscape of what it all means. And we're streaming. We're still selling some on iTunes. Nobody sells records anymore. Everybody's streaming. But I didn't do this to sell records. I did this, if people want to own it and take it with them, then that's beautiful. But if you want to listen to it, that's also beautiful, because all I wanted to do, and I've said this to many of my friends, the reason I made music again was, number one, to keep the promise that I wouldn't go back into isolation. And number two, I wanted to just see if I was viable as a songwriter, singer, arranger, mixer, producer. I wanted to see if I could even remotely do some sort of creative involvement with all that. And in the beginning, it was challenging because of the new technologies, but now I've embraced the living crap out of all of it.
Well,
I have a great studio.
You're my new hero because I'm very close to my journey to isolation. So I will use you as a hero.
Whoa. What does that mean? Tell me what that means.
Well, it's the same. That's why I wanted to talk to you, because it's, I feel very, I totally relate to what you're saying. The third person, the, 25 albums, the given your heart and soul, the ability to entertain and be funny and charming and smiley and handsome and all the stuff that is quote unquote required when you decide to make a product that people consume rather than just put it on your shelf as art for your children or grandchildren. And so it becomes that way. You get into this, like I'm telling you, but you get into this, I'm on stage, I go to the bus. I'm on stage, I go to the bus. I go to the hotel. I go into I hadn't been in a drugstore in like 5 years.
I know.
That's what, like
People
civilization.
People don't realize that. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
I think it was Jackson Browne years ago who said the audiences are heavenly, but the traveling is hell.
Yes.
That might have been, I think it was Jackson Browne, but it might have been Dan Fogelberg, actually. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right, Dan Fogelberg. But the spirit is the same.
So the point is people don't realize that though we love performing for them, and we would give anything if it was just about standing on a stage and trying to come up with something they want you to give them that you cannot otherwise get until you're in front of them. That moment where people bring that out of you is something you can't do in a studio by yourself or in your living room.
Right.
So that becomes a drug in itself. But the other 23 hours of that touring day, or 22 hours if you're on stage for a couple hours, the other 22 hours, man, that is some rough stuff. People don't realize going to your hotel room and the bus pulls in and it's 11 in the morning and it's running all night, and you go to your hotel room and you just go, now what?
Exactly. And so common. This is, I was talking to Katie Lang about this recently. I was talking to Barry Manilow about this.
I love her voice.
Yes.
I love her voice so much.
The two of you together. Oh my gosh. But this is,
she's so great.
It's really a very common thing. I think also, it's part of age as well. It's part of growing up as a human being. It's part of, anything is possible when you're 25 years old. And like you said about the Hollywood Boulevard and that spirit of mortality. And I mean, it's all wrapped up in that stuff, but we can't get too heavy duty. But music is such a great way to communicate, and it's okay to take a break from it. That's what I keep saying to myself. Just because I walk by the piano every day, in case I don't play it, doesn't mean that I don't have the gift anymore. Doesn't mean that I'm wasting talent or something. It just means, everybody needs a break now and then.
Well, I can tell you that looking back, the first thing I did when I left the group was I went to my hometown. I bought a motorcycle, and I started driving around my hometown area. Back in those days, there was no helmets, so I had this long hair flowing behind me on a motorcycle on these country roads near the southwest part of Hanford, California. And I remembered as a kid driving down Coyote Road, and it was summertime, and I'm driving around, and all of a sudden, it's like 104 degrees in that area in the summer. And when you're on a motorcycle and the heat of the summer is baking your face like a hairdryer in your face, you're just driving. It's kind of nice, but it's cooking you. And all of a sudden, the temperature would drop 10, 20 degrees. And I go, whoa, it's so nice and cool. What happened? And I looked to the left and I looked to the right, and there were green alfalfa fields. And I remembered as a kid that alfalfa holds on to the moisture, and those fields are always 10 degrees cooler than the area where they are not there. And all of a sudden I was transported back into my life, into the life I had before I got lucky in the music business. And that was so, I'm just talking to you about what you're talking about, Jim. It was so important to reconnect with that simple thing. I had forgotten about that. And it meant so much to reconnect. Then I started thinking about the music I heard in that town and the R&B music that rescued my heart when I was a kid. And the whole thing started to flood back. And I think it was part of the rejuvenation of the passion for music.
I think I have the title for your next album.
What's that?
Alfalfa Fields Forever.
I like that. That's good.
I don't know. I don't know. It could be. I don't know. I don't know how that popped into my mind. But Steve Perry, thank you so much for talking with us. The new album, it's been out for a while, but you got to check it out if you haven't seen the video, steveperry.com. And the video of We're Still Here is just tremendous. You get to see,
thanks.
We really see the heart and soul in this new music. And but right now, because we are recording and thousands of people, so I don't say millions, are listening. Here's the disclaimer. When are you going to come on stage and sing a song with me? When are we going to write a song together?
Here we go. Okay, so I would tell you right now that I have sort of a performance list that there's one person in front of you. Okay.
Okay. Who?
And she's number one, okay. And you're going to be number two.
Do I know her?
I would say you could categorize that as a duet, you and I. Right?
I know.
I mean, that would be something.
That's right. That's right.
Right?
If I know her, it could be a trio.
Number one on my list to do my first duet would be with Sade.
Oh, wow. That's a great idea.
I could hear myself and her voice on one song just singing. There's just something extremely amazing and sexy about her voice that I know would pull something unique out of me. And so she's number one on the list, so you're right behind her,
okay.
Jim.
Well, I think you should call her.
I'm going to.
And if she doesn't answer, then call me.
Then you're up.
That's right. So great to talk with you again. All the best, and thanks for the therapy, doctor. I really appreciate it.
Hang in there and take some time off. It's okay. You deserve it.
Thank you, doctor.
Okay.
Steve,
thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to talk with you, and all the best. I can't wait to hear what's coming next in your life.
All the best to you, too. Take care.
Thanks. It's a Jim Brickman Show.
Bye-bye.